Quest!
The Adventure Game Podcast.
Yeah, we rehearsed that one. That is not something that just happened.
That was 4 hours.
And that
4
was
hours of work.
4 hours. It is 2 o'clock in the morning because we did this all, just straight through.
You see, our mistake was we would do the intro and then do the whole episode. And then we're like, that intro wasn't it. And then we would go all the way back to one and just do this will be the 5th time we've recorded this episode just to get the intro right.
Right. Yeah. Yeah,
I mean,
we haven't even talked. We haven't but we're keeping our powder dry talking about the game, fortunately. How you doing today, Jess?
I am pretty good. I've been having a great day. It's been snowing here. It's a wintry wonderland.
Oh, let
once
me
again.
introduce you. You're Jess, and I'm Ben. All right, great.
That's right. And we talk about things like sandwiches and the weather and adventure games here on Quest, the Adventure Game Podcast. And I'm here to talk about soup. I had a big pot of borscht today.
You were skeeting about
was.
borscht, and you even had an exchange with the great DOS Nostalgic.
Yes, shout out to Anatoly. Yes, I had a wonderful pot, a couple of bowls of the good old borscht, some fresh baked bread with it. I've eaten Ben.
Who's the bread maker?
And I'm not a small machine that sits on our countertop.
Okay, so it's
Courtney put the stuff in it. My lovely wife. I'm sure she's listening right now. So shout out to Courtney. She can't get enough Quest.
You know what's yeah. I'm sure she hasn't had her fill of your voice. Oh, brother. Oh, coming out swinging. You know what I miss? I used to have a bread maker, but city living, those things are a big chunk of real, kitchen real estate. I liked them as like a dough maker. Like if I'm making like pizza dough, putting all that shit in there and then just hit the dough thing. It almost always made good enough dough. Like I know there's some doughsmen and doughs people out there.
Doughboys is the
Oh, is that the phrase? Oh man, we're getting punchier and punchier every episode.
Yeah, and I think less and less about adventure games, it feels like. I don't know. Is this going to be the first adventure game podcast to just become two guys talking for an hour?
Oh, yeah. That's we did it.
We cracked the code.
Yeah, they're going to be like, these doughboys. They're going to be upset that I use the dough machine to make pizza dough. And listen, I don't. Now I don't. I use my KitchenAid. Everyone calm down.
Yeah. But I don't want to see a ton of reviews on on iTunes about this, about, Ben's not a real dough aficionado.
Oh man. All right. So you had homemade borscht. I've never made borscht.
It's wonderful. It's just, just lovely beets. It's the kind it makes a delicious red broth that would destroy forever anything it came into contact with.
Oh yeah.
You can't a drop of that on your hardwood. You got to move to a new place.
Yeah.
It's game over.
Well, that's why you and I also have cats, and that takes care of the hardwood as well. And you also have a dog, like that also takes care of hardwood.
We have a real time cleaning system of several animals. They're just constantly, moving around like fleshy Roombas, scooping up any food that hits the floor. So yeah, we're safe there.
Oh, I was talking about how they damage hardwood.
That's hopeless too. Yeah, I mean, all the grooves they've created are perfect for some borscht to pull up in.
That's what they call that. They call
a borscht groove.
A borscht groove. I've been getting into the borscht groove. Jess, I have a very important question for you.
Please,
Jess, what have you been playing lately?
What? Oh, now this is delightful. What do we have going on here?
I told Jess that there would be a surprise. Here it is. So Jess, what have you been playing? Jess had no idea.
Well, what am I hearing? I'm not sure. Like,
this is just some, chill,
just some
jazzy tunes off of the royalty-free collection I got on Humble Bundle.
Well, I mean, I hate to repeat this, but I just finished up Willie Beamish for the first time. I'm talking adventure games here. And Ben, what is Willie Beamish? I know that I may have said this exact phrase in the last episode, but what is Willie Beamish? Like, what is it trying to be? How am I supposed to feel when I'm done playing Willie Beamish?
And if you know the answer to this, email us at questquestpodcast@gmail.com. But I have an opinion on this as well. I don't think it is good.
Okay. I like this energy you're bringing to the table.
I think that it is. There are a variety of problems with Willie Beamish, also known as Wally Beamish to some.
Yes. To many.
To most. Wally Beamish's major problem is that it has too many ideas, and I don't think it does any of them particularly well.
Yes.
Oh, and let's have a little background. If they didn't listen last week, what's Willie Beamish? What's
Willie
that adventure
Beamish
game?
is a dynamic adventure game from 1991. It's a Saturday morning cartoon for adults, I guess, about the worst family ever and their little turd of a kid, Willie Beamish.
So
I mean, he's a turd of a kid, right? I mean, am I wrong?
He's a shitty little boy. Listen, not every character, not every show or movie or piece of art about like people has to have likable characters. Famously, there's some great television programs and films and so on that are starring horrible people, and that's part of the appeal. But if you're not like good, like that's an advanced class.
Yes, you need to you need to learn how to tell a story with like a likable set of characters and get good at that before you start telling stories about like satirically unlikable people.
Yeah. And so all of you have this unpleasant hang with a bunch of unpleasant people.
Yes.
That the characters all hate each other, and the writers have contempt for the characters. The writers are making fun of all of the characters.
Yes.
Also, the game has a very characteristic, especially of games of that adventure games of that period, where like the last quarter or so just hits a complete vertiginous like difficulty spike.
Yes, and we're going to talk about this eventually in an episode because it's something that keeps coming up, like adventure games that cannot stick the landing. You get to the final act, and all of a sudden, most of the story drops out, supporting characters drop out. It just turns into, here are where we crammed all the least thought out puzzles. Like, here's where all the fiddly, weird, bad puzzles come into play. And this is your punishment for sticking with our game for so long.
Yeah. Yeah.
Here's the thing. I mean, I complained about this last time. I mean, Willie has too many things. First of all, he has the ambiguous name.
Yeah,
is it Willie? Is it Wally?
Yeah,
he's got that. He's got the Ghost Grandpa. He's got Ghost Grandpa, who's a train conductor, who's never commented upon and barely shows up. He's got
shows up at the very end.
Yeah, just like right when your dad's getting ready to be murdered. And he's like, watch it, Willie. You don't want your dad, my son, to be murdered and be a ghost like me. He's got that. He's
Hell
got the championship.
Full.
Yeah. Championship jumping frog. He's got a dog that maybe talks. It's unclear if Willie can hear him or not. I don't know. It just, I mean, there's two. I mean, Ben, I know you love Family Guy more than anything and say it's the best show you've ever watched. Yeah, you're a huge Family Guy fan. This was honestly, like I've said before, I watched like one episode of Family Guy. I'm like, nope, never again. I felt like a talking baby and a talking dog was too much. I was just like, nope, you can't have both of those in the same show. And a kid who sounds like Seth Green? I don't think so. You can't have all three of those. Yeah, and Willie Beamish is doing that and more. So that's why I've been playing Willie Beamish. That is a 2-star adventure game out of 5.
All right. Well, you heard it here first. 2 out of 5. I've been playing.
Ben, what have you been playing?
I don't know if I should keep this looping under this entire.
No, I don't. I mean, honestly, I feel like I do know, and the answer is no. But, you know, I'm not the producer here. Lynn is in the booth, and she is saying, keep it going.
Keep it going. Keep it going. Yeah, I'm getting the hand signal. Keep it going. Keep it going.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So here, I'm gonna wait until the loop here, and Jess, what I've been playing. I have so I've been playing Cook Serve Forever. Have you played any of the Cook Serve Delicious games?
No, I haven't.
Okay. So the Cook Serve Delicious games, of which there's Cook Serve Delicious 1 through 3, and then now in early access is Cook Serve Forever, which is kind of like a side. It is not a total like sequel to Cook Serve Delicious 3. It's its own kind of thing a little bit. In Cook Serve Delicious, in the first 3 games, you run a restaurant, and the game is kind of a bunch of button inputs to quickly create a food item that you then serve to a guest, and then you get a whole bunch of them over the course of a day, and it's kind of all about like button presses and timing and memorizing stuff and all of that, and it has great music. Cook Serve Forever. Oh yeah, even better. Well, nothing's better than this, but close. Cook Serve Forever just got a big gameplay overhaul update. Apparently people did not like. I didn't buy it initially because all the initial reactions were very negative. And so they took all the early access feedback of we don't like the gameplay and completely overhauled it. And so I was like, all right, I'll give it a try because I like the first 3 games. And it's a lot of fun. And it's still in early access, so I noodled on it a little bit, and I think I'm gonna put it away until it gets closer to 1. But the interesting mechanic, the Cook Serve Forever, which is more of a narrative game. It's that you get little story segments, and then you have these cooking button input things. But the difference between this and the other 3 games where you manage the restaurant is that you're doing 2 things at once, which is insane.
Okay.
What it is that it splits either your keyboard or your gamepad into you see 2 instructions at all times, and the instructions on the left are all instructions on what you do on the left side of your gamepad, and the instructions on the right are what you're supposed to do on the right side of the gamepad, and they are both button presses and button holds, and sometimes like hold a button while pressing this other button, and it's insane.
I couldn't do that. My brain no longer can do those sorts of things.
It is an absolute rub your belly and pat your head.
Yeah,
and it feels very satisfying when you do it.
Yes, I can imagine. I could not do it, but I can imagine.
It is a very intriguing sort of feeling. I've only put about 40 minutes into it. So the nice thing about the other Cook Serve Delicious games is that, like, really like the game gets more difficult as you go because you get more complicated food items that you learn, and they all have more steps, and you're racing to do them. But really, the start of the game is always feels like the most difficult because you're getting used to all these fast button inputs and stuff like that. And so like I'm looking forward to playing this and being able to go back to these first levels that I'm doing where I'm just like staring at the screen, feeling my brain split, and being able to do it like bing bong boom boom bing bing boom boom bing bong boom boom bing bong boom boom bing bong boom boom like that.
Okay, like that. Okay.
Yeah.
No, now I get the game.
I hear the music, so I start scatting.
That's true. I mean, who could not with this jazzy tune?
All right, and Jess, that's what I've been playing.
Kill it dead.
Oh, Jess, what are we talking about today?
Oh my goodness. We are talking about a very exciting game. We are talking about 2019's Hypnospace Outlaw.
2019.
It's hard to
Really?
believe, isn't it?
Is
Yes.
it 2019? I thought it was early. Wow.
2019. But this is a fascinating game. Now, this is one I know you've played before and that
Multiple
you love.
times.
Yeah, this is one I'm just playing currently right now for the very first time. And I am fascinated by this. We were kicking around topics for this week, and I am so hypnospace on the brain. I just thought this is the only thing I want to talk about this week is the game Hypnospace Outlaw.
Yeah.
Because it's lodged up in my medulla oblongata. It's inescapable to me right now.
Yeah.
Ben, how in the world would you describe Hypnospace Outlaw? And isn't it an adventure game?
It's absolutely an adventure game. Next.
Well, how would you describe it though? Like, what is?
So
tell the listener.
First off, I'm going to say
Yes.
that Hypnospace Outlaw is one of my top games and adventure games of this century, of this quarter century.
Wow. Since 1925, one of your top games. Wow.
Sure. But since the year 2000 when this millennium began.
Okay. Now, when you said this, that makes a lot more sense.
But and I mean also people are like, excuse me, that's not when it started. But also the year 2000 is very big in within the fiction of the game.
It's looming.
But this game is literally one of my top games of these past 25 years.
And I get that. Like, I'm 2 hours in and I see it.
So Hypnospace Outlaw is a game that takes place towards the end of 1999, and it is this alt history where it is set within this enclosed internet like space where you are navigating these user made websites that are very similar to if you use the internet at the time, such as I did, such as Jess did, and we're going to talk about that. They all look like GeoCities and BraveNet. And what were some of the other ones, Jess? Because everybody says GeoCities.
Angel Fire.
Angel Fire were the worst because they were covered with pop-ups. GeoCities wasn't even as bad as Angel Fire in my
not by a long shot. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, we're talking animated GIFs. We're talking under construction signs. We're talking what else?
We're talking. Oh, this one's in my notes. This is something when I reopened Hypnospace today to kind of jog my memory. it this one just slapped me across the face where it changed your cursor into another cursor and then there was a dragging image,
Oh, a mouse trail.
a mouse
Yes.
trail. I went to this website in Hypnospace when I was playing it earlier today where it changed the cursor into like a wizard's scepter and there were
Yes.
sparkles that trailed
Yes.
behind it. And I was just like, I remember this. I remember these websites. And
It turns out I'm a return guy for that
oh,
internet now. Yeah, I mean, I
yeah,
didn't realize how badly I missed it until I started. I mean, yeah,
right.
auto playing a MIDI
Yeah,
when you hit onto a website, horrible real player quality video
yeah,
clips. Like, I just want it all. I want that all back.
right. The so the premise of the game is that so that's the setting. It takes place in that the alt universe wrinkle to it is that instead of sitting down at a computer and typing on your keyboard or whatever, this is a uh some sort of like headset that you put on and you go to sleep and you access it while you're asleep, which is a very strange like it 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 gives the developers and the writers a lot more, I think, kind of narrative license to go even kind of weirder with
Yes.
it and get a little freakier. There's this has it takes that GeoCities, to use a shorthand, that GeoCities aesthetic and then turns up the volume on it all the way. And GeoCities aesthetic was pretty loud, but this is as if GeoCities aesthetic was at like let's say 5 and this turns it all the way up to 10.
Yeah, this is
Every
a world
website,
where
yeah,
the worst GeoCities page you ever went to
is
is
every
every
website.
GeoCities page. Yeah, that's right. The most egregious one is just like the norm. And yeah, absolutely. And I mean, it's pretty unhinged in there. And I feel like even describing this thing, it's like we sound unhinged because if
What?
you haven't played this,
Yeah. So the gameplay of it is that you are a moderator for Hypnospace, and what that means is that you'll be given a series of assignments to find users or websites that are in violation of Hypnospace laws and report them. Push
yeah,
the
maybe
report
they're
button.
posting copyrighted images. Maybe they have, harmful content of some sort. Maybe they have malicious software that they're out there. And yeah, your job is to basically be a net cop. You're out there looking for violators. You're flagging their content
Hmm.
and you're cleaning up this platform. You are a forum moderator of
Yeah.
sorts, and it's remarkable. Like, I mean, this is a trick we'll probably talk about a lot, but within minutes,
Yep.
I became
Yep.
such a righteous enforcer of these rules.
It's
It's like,
intoxicating.
oh, I know. It's like some lady has uploaded some copyright images of a cartoon character
Kind
to
old lady.
a kind old lady, and it's just like, I want this person sent to internet prison. This
It
is not okay.
it totally just gives you that taste of petty authority.
Yeah. It must be how it feels to carry a gun.
All right, now there's a lot to talk about here, but and I really want to talk about also like how what the gameplay of that is, like how you search through it. But before we even get to that, I'd like to talk a bit about because this game um it it really within a second when I remember when I bought it, like this was a day one purchase for me. Because I was a fan of the lead developer Jay Tholen's previous adventure game Dropsy. I
hmm
really loved that game, and so this was a day one purchase. I was like, I loved Dropsy, and this idea seems great. But within a second, I was like, this is something even more special. because it feels it feels like it did. And so I
Yes.
want we are both old internet veterans,
Yes, we are
you and I.
children of this era at some level. And, I think that we had maybe some different
You and I
internet
both had
experiences growing up.
websites too.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah,
You and
absolutely.
I both had websites. We both like were forum people. We were both, and so let's hear a little bit. I'm going to assume that almost everyone listening is familiar with your Web 1.0 website. But let's hear that. Let's hear your internet history.
Yeah, I mean, let me just open up my internet history here. No, my internet history. I in 1995 arrived at college, and literally on the first day during our sort of orientation walkthrough of the computer lab, I sat down at a computer. I opened up a web browser for the first time, and that was literally my first time ever going online. I'd
So
never
not
had
CompuServe
no
or any of
AOL, no
that. Okay.
CompuServe, sadly, no Imagination Network, Sierra
Oh,
Network. As bad as I wanted those, I'd never been online. I'd never even dialed into a BBS. So this is my first online experience, and I was fascinated. I mean, this is the 1995 web, like where there's nothing even on it. It's like a few research laboratories and a couple of Star Trek fan pages, basically, is all that's out there. And just immediately, I got obsessed with this idea of I saw the internet and I'm like, I want to create something for this.
it was
Like, I
this
just,
big wide place
yeah, it
and
was such fertile
making
soil.
yeah, and it was and making a website, learning early like HTML like 1 through 4 was not hard. It
No,
was
no, absolutely.
pretty straight. Like
Yeah.
HTML is not a hard programming language, and I say that as a guy that is like I do not have any of those skills.
No, absolutely. I wish I did, and I don't. But I saw the internet and I'm like, I have to create something. I went out that day after orientation was over. I got my car. I drove to B. Dalton at the mall. Yeah. And I bought a copy of HTML for Dummies. And I was like, I'm going to learn how to make stuff for this internet. And read through that and decided I'm going to make a Space Quest website. I was a
Right.
huge Space Quest fan.
Yeah.
Then, just as now, I loved adventure games. And I just
Uh-huh.
thought to myself, I'm going to make a Space Quest fan site. And I launched Roger Wilco's Virtual Broom Closet in November of 1995. It
Uh-oh.
is very Web.10.2. Web
November of
1.0.
1995?
Yes.
5?
I
Wait a
know, Ben.
minute.
This year is huge. This year, I'm going to do something this year. Just you wait. I've
Yeah.
got plans. But
Yeah.
I launched this thing, like the idea of writing something, cramming it into an HTML document, putting it online, just felt magical to me. Pretty soon, once I figured out how, I had a web forum going on the website. So I was getting to play moderator myself
Mhm.
there. A community springs up. It was amazing. And this was a time when, yeah, there were just homemade personal websites and fan sites popping up
We
everywhere.
didn't
I mean,
know how good we had it.
oh no, no. I mean, like there
We
was a,
didn't know because it was so exciting when Facebook and all that shit came along. It
oh, I
was
know.
so exciting when all that stuff came. It was like, "Oh my god, this is so great." And now
We
it's
didn't
not.
know what we were going to lose. But yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, there was a time like we had a Wilco World Wide web ring, which was it had like 22 websites in it or so. Like there were like 22 active Space Quest fan sites somehow, all posting different original content. So I mean, that's how I came onto this web, and it was amazing. I mean, it literally was life changing to me. I
It
just didn't know how this was missing from my life, and that early era of being able to create. I mean, around the same time, I created a webzine. I had a personal website
mhm.
called Jessville that looked a lot like one of these.
Oh, wonderful.
Well, these like I had a little guy in a hula hoop animated GIF at the top of it,
Oh,
and a
yeah.
quote from the Harvey Danger song "Flagpole Sitta"
Uh-huh.
right at the very
Yeah.
top of my webpage.
Yeah, yeah.
So I want to uh, published zines and Rage Against Machines, I believe was the quote I chose. So yeah, I mean, how's that for like 1996?
What what was Jessville? Did you ever use GeoCities or any of those, or were they all on
I
like
all hosted them.
university internet
I
or
had
right?
a friend with a server
Right.
where I hosted all my stuff. Now, tell me about your website.
Okay. So my what so the funny thing here is that I was on the internet before you, or I was on connected,
Mhm.
like I was online before you. Let's not
Yeah,
say the
and I'm
internet
much
because
older than you.
like ages,
I could be your
eons.
father.
Yeah. No.
Well, it depends. I mean,
I believe you are almost exactly 10 years older than me.
there you go.
Like, maybe like a 11. I don't know, around there. Anyway, I we had so first off, we had a very we were a very computer savvy family, my family. And I believe even before I was using it, I think my uh siblings used CompuServe briefly. But my earliest memories of online are that we had in the early 90s, and I'm saying like 91, 92. We had Prodigy.
Oh wow,
And
yeah.
Prodigy, we were using that on DOS.
Ooh.
And uh it was there was something very exciting about, like, even to me as a kid, that you turn on the computer and there would be something new there, you know?
Uh huh. Yeah, because in a world pre like everything being online, like your computer was the little box of discs you had sitting beside it.
Right.
Basically, there wasn't any new content unless you went to a store and bought some new content for
Right.
yourself.
Yeah. And so we had Prodigy, and there was a adventure game. There was this it's not, I don't know if it would be, we would call it a choose your own adventure. It was kind of like you had prompts that you selected.
Mhm.
And it was called Mad Maze, which I believe you someone recreated online, so you can play Mad Maze right now. It has some really interesting vector art in it that
Oh,
I think is pretty neat. I recommend checking out Mad Maze. I don't know, like my view of Mad Maze, because I played a lot of it as a kid. Uh, I will never be able to look at it from any sort of, you know,
objective
yeah,
distance.
objective
Yeah.
place. And so I don't think it's probably not that good, but it's interesting. I think it
So that's
is
this
interesting.
week's
Yeah, we are.
recommendation.
Yeah, yeah. Next week we're talking about Mad Maze. But so we had Prodigy, we had the Imagination Network. I got addicted to Serbius.
Hmm.
Uh, and then in going into the time that this game is set, so in 99, that was when I I have a very distinct memory of uh the year 2000, New Year 2000, and posting on my Sliders fan
Yes.
website about
Yes.
Happy New Year's 2000. Uh I I had a Sliders fan website. That was my
Ben loved
very
tiny
first.
hammers at the time. He could not get enough of
Yeah.
them.
The science fiction
Oh.
program starring Jerry O'Connell,
Hmm. Oh,
John
you mean
Rhys
lower
Davies.
decks?
Yeah, John Rhys Davies is not in Lower Decks.
Oh,
Uh,
yet.
well,
Oh, wait.
yeah.
What? Why are you shaking your head, Ben? What? What? What
I've
don't
got.
I know?
Oh, we'll talk after the podcast.
Oh
Anyway,
no.
uh, so I must have made that website in 1999, maybe late 98, but I had a Sliders fan website that ran off 50freemegs.com, I believe was the web provider service because it gave you 50 megabytes.
You can do anything with
Of,
that.
that's like an unbelievable amount of
Yeah.
space for a
You were lucky if you
website.
had a 50 megabyte hard drive at that time.
Like Geo, I think our hard drive was we had a gig. We had one
Wow.
gig.
Wow, Ben.
Our first our Pentium computer, our Gateway 2000 that we got in 1996, I think came with a 1 gig hard drive. Anyway, uh and then yeah, so I made a website, and I think this is really important to actually linking this back to Hypnospace Outlaw is that I was all over the internet. I like, you know, as a like as a 12 and 13-year old, as a kid. Because yeah, 90 in 99, it would have been 12 and 13. And in Hypnospace Outlaw, they do one of the the great touches in the game is that all of the websites that you go to, there is a very like extremely varied mix of ages all smushed together into this one community, and that's how it was because I was
Yes.
like posting on these forums as a 13-year-old with like 20-year-olds, 30-year-olds, 40, like
Absolutely.
it
Yeah.
must have been really annoying.
You know, one of the one of the little details that I love about it is because I mean, within this game, you can surf to a bunch of people's, personal websites. You go to some business websites, other things like that. But for a lot of the personal websites, so many of them are just people like, let me tell you about who I am. Like these about me sections, they're just like what because you couldn't have a website back then
Yeah.
without like mostly doxing yourself. Like you're going to tell
Oh my
everybody like
god.
your first and last name, what town you're
Oh my
from,
god,
you're
Jess.
yeah,
I
that I love.
that was something I wrote down too. Was let me look
C-
through my notes. Is this is my exact note here is the written tone of personal pages is right on. There's a
Yes.
certain type of overshare specific to then.
Yes.
Obviously, like today, like like on Twitter or Blue Sky or whatever, someone might say something really humiliating about themselves, but that is generally like everyone will be like, don't do that. Um, whereas, um, uh, uh, whereas in, uh, like at that time, like the website that on Hypnospace that made me think about this was there's this page of this guy Corey, and he is updating the page constantly talking about his girlfriend
Yes.
and then what happens with her. And I don't want to give away all the the whole story. And the thing is also is that Hypnospace Outlaw takes place on a couple dates. So much like myself being amazed at like logging into Prodigy a week later, and there would be new information on the websites or in the Prodigy zones, whatever they called those. Uh, in Hypnospace Outlaw, it takes place across a couple dates. And so the websites do update and change over the course of the game, which is also great. So you get to see uh, people uh update and develop their stories and interact and stuff like that.
God, I'm just thinking like the way I used to surf the internet was I had my bookmarks in my browser and probably had like 100 of them. And just like once or twice a week, I would just go to all of these websites. A lot of them are just personal, like websites made by some single human being and just see if they've been updated. It's like,
Yep.
I wonder if there's anything new at my favorite Deep Space Nine website.
Yeah.
I'll go there and check. And
Yeah.
I've lost so much touch with that way of interact. I mean, first RSS and then social media and then the collapse of anything resembling a healthy online community. And just everything. It's like that feels so foreign. And I think that's what's for old heads like us. I feel like that's what Hypnospace Outlaw captures in just such a beautiful, elegant way. You have had to have been there to make the game. I don't know if you have had to have been there to enjoy the game.
I have heard, and I would be interested if anyone who's listening has thoughts or experience with this, questpodcast@gmail.com. I have heard, I've seen people post online like, oh, my 13-year-old played it and had a great time. Uh
Yeah, it feels like you could.
I think it is uh, a testament to this game has spectacular writing. And
Absolutely.
I, and so regardless of like you and I, we old heads, we were soaking in it. And even when I just opened it up today to refresh myself, I got that it really gives me the warmth of a nostalgia when I
Yes.
open up the game. Uh, but regardless of if you get that hit or not, the writing is of such high quality that even if you are 21, which means that you weren't around for this, uh you could probably have a pretty good time playing it because it's a good game. It
Right.
goes beyond the nostalgia gets you in the door, but the
There's
quality of
something there after
writing,
that.
the quality of
Yeah.
presentation, the how much fun it is to play,
Yeah.
it gets you in there.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about one of the great things about it is the music. So every website when you enter it, about like
Oh,
90% of them have music that plays, and this is 1,000% accurate.
yes.
There
Absolutely. That's how websites used to be.
now the change that they did is that these are all kind of like they're samples. There's audio. Back then it would have been waves, which were too high, too big, so they had to be short, or it'd be midis.
Yes.
So like this.
Yeah.
That's
It would
awesome.
have had to have ended right there.
Yeah.
Probably if it was a wave file back in the day.
And man, the way that song sounds like that it has that 1999 kind
It
of.
has like an Evanescence, wake me up
Yeah.
inside kind of vibe.
Oh my god.
Oh,
Then there's I think it's called chill punk like.
oh yeah.
And
I
this is
just love it.
all has an album, so
Mhm.
you could purchase it, or I believe it's on all the streaming platforms as well.
It's also good. I mean, Ben, you mentioned the gameplay. Like for me, this is fast. Again, you're
So
playing. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
well, yeah, yeah, I wanted to say, and this is just about. I'm sure. I think we're both traffic jamming ourselves here. Is I think they uh how what the interface we haven't talked about.
Yeah, I mean, the interface at some levels like a web browser. I mean, you're doing a lot of this game inside of a web browser, but it's an OS. You're like basically in the HypnoS or
Mm-hmm.
Hypnos, I guess.
Hip,
And
yeah,
it's a desktop that you can
install
download
stuff onto.
software and install it. You can like update wallpapers and do all kinds of fun stuff like that. And it's where your suite of tools that you use to enforce internet justice all lives. So it's like where you open up your email to get your latest case assignments. It's where you open up your browser to get on Hypnospace and start looking through websites for violations. It's how you report. It's all, I mean, it all feels a lot like a Windows
Mhm.
95, 98 sort of interface
And there's
with a
a
lot of vaporwave
yeah.
vibes to it. Like, it's definitely got that turn of the millennium vaporwave
Yes.
aesthetic going on, which feels very, very cool and very retro in its own way.
And there's a
It,
great joke on Windows stuff that comes later in the game that I won't give away, but
Mhm.
it's there for all of you Windows joke heads. The gameplay actually makes me think a bit about, so when you're in order to do your detective work as a moderator, we hear that someone's been posting unauthorized content. You need to find 5 examples of it and send it to us. Uh, the way that you do that is first, and this is true of, if you remember, Yahoo had these and GeoCities had these, is that there are these zones. I believe AOL had these too. I didn't have
like
AOL.
neighborhoods
Yeah,
almost.
neighborhoods of websites that you can click on. They're all subject related, and so there will be like maybe, I don't know, 8 pages
Hmm.
per. But then there are a lot of websites that are not listed
Yeah,
within
not
that.
indexed.
They're not
So,
indexed.
how do you find them?
So the game is takes a page from her story. I
Yes, I'm
don't.
glad you made this connection because that
Yeah,
was the comparison I had in my notes too. Yeah, her
yeah.
story, the fantastic Sam Barlow FMV game that we've talked about before. A lot of this is you're kind of using your own Google foo, I guess as
Hmm.
we used to call it, your search engine skills to backtrack through information you have, follow keywords to
Yep.
similar sites.
It
And
is actual detective work is what I like about
yes,
it, is that you
yeah.
are, so you're like, okay. And part of the wonderful, alt world of this is that there's a alternative set of acronyms and vernacular in the world. So there's BWL instead of LOL, which I think is, if I recall correctly, it is bursting with laughter.
Yes.
BWL, BWL. There's just a bunch of those. It,
ETC, which instead of et cetera is extra thick chips.
there there is so much of that, and also because it uses this other vernacular and there are other terms and things in this, it adds, it makes the searching and the detective work a refreshing, like, additionally difficult without, the game has, especially in the later going, it does get pretty tricky, but I don't think it ever gets unfair. It just gets tricky.
Yeah. And it's kind of slowly eased you into it in such a way that if you're paying attention, you have the tools to figure this out. These cases don't solve themselves either. I mean, you're going to have to do a little legwork and make some logical leaps and things. And they're never out of grasp, but I like that. I like that it takes a little bit of thought. Even by the time you're like to the third and fourth case, you're not going to just accidentally solve it by searching for copyright infringement or
Yeah,
something
you
that,
don't.
oh, there's all the copyright infringement.
Right. And I'm just gonna loop back once again to just how great the writing is, because the game does a really wonderful job of, and you'll see more of this as you get further in the game, Jess, is it does this wonderful job of showing how, like, the evolution of internet communities and
Hmm.
how drama forms in them, and how bad actors in internet communities work. and also we get there's subplots in the game about the weird two brothers that own the company, that own the headset that make this. And there's all sorts of interesting running plots that are the game at first glance has is very funny, and it has a remarkable aesthetics, but there's actual craft to what the game is saying, and how it has different voices for each of the characters. One of
Yeah.
the characters, Jay Tholen liked so much, he spun off another game off of Hypnospace Outlaw. There's the Slayer, I believe it's Slayer Z. Yeah.
Yes.
The Slayer Z shooter game from the character Zane, who's one of the most distinctive and memorable characters.
Also a little turd.
Yeah, who's Zane? Talk about Zane.
You see, I've just been barely introduced to Zane. Zane is, I believe he's 14, but he's turning 15 soon. Um, he is kind of like an edge lord in training, I would argue. He likes a little bit edgy comedy. He likes some heavy metal music. He is he likes a little bit of blood and guts and some things like that. He is kind of a resident bad boy at some level. I feel like that's my read on him so far. Ben, how would
Yeah,
you describe our
I
friend
think you
Zane?
got it exactly right. I
Yeah,
think he is a annoying little 14-year-old
yeah,
edgelord. He has a web comic.
yeah. He's the kind of edge lord who would use the word shit, but put a star in place of the I on it.
Or an
Just
exclamation point.
Possibly, yeah, just so he wouldn't get into trouble. Yeah, I mean, this is, and it's one, I mean, this is, we've talked before, Ben. I mean, at this point, we only say like 6 or 7 things on this podcast. One, we talk about where great sandwiches are in New York
Mhm,
City 20
mhm.
years ago.
The
But one of the
Fonties.
other things we talked a lot
Still
about,
there.
yeah, is a sense of place.
Mhm.
And wildly, I think this game does that as well as any game I've ever played. Hypnospace feels like a real lived in place.
Yeah.
And characters like Zane and the people that Zane interacts with, some of whom aren't big fans of Zane, uh, create a world that feels weirdly real. Like once you're in it, it starts to feel like, God, if you were around at that time, you may have been in web communities that felt a lot like this. And that to me is just like, it's all credit to the writing. I mean, it's just fantastic.
The way that they write, and again, this is later on, and I don't want to spoil anything, but the way that some of the like kind of Silicon Valley ethics that are displayed by some of the characters, and how some of the trolls behave, is not only really true to life, it feels like it's true to life and also a commentary on today somehow.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I think this is very fair. Yeah. I mean, it manages like any good work of nostalgia should take you back, but it should also make you reflect a little bit on the present as well. And I think
Yeah.
it does that. And, something, Ben, I've got to talk to you about this.
All right.
This is like something that immediately captured me as I was playing this game.
Okay. Let's hear
we
it.
talked we talked interface, we talked gameplay.
Right.
When you find a violation in this game, you have, okay, Ben, you know where I'm going. You
Yeah.
you click on within this little your special admin browser, you have
Which
a
is
button.
that feels so good that
Yeah,
you have a
that's,
special admin
yes,
browser. Are you kidding?
absolutely. You're not like one of those regular users. You're a power
No. You
user.
have a
And
special.
you have this little gavel that you use to strike
Mhm,
down violations. Say you see
mhm,
an image that infringes on copyright. You
mhm.
hit it with the gavel, you submit your report. and it is stricken from that website.
Eh,
Ben,
oh,
how good
oh, it
does it
feels so
feel?
good. It
What is
feels
it?
you
Like,
it's like a dunk and then a brrr, like because you get paid in phony internet money that you can redeem on just garbage.
yes, like new wallpapers for your website, for your desktop and things. But it feels so good. I mean, not only do you get the thrill of justice was done, of, sent some poor kid to internet prison,
Mhm.
but gosh, just even, I mean, it's so visceral. It's almost like it has haptic feedback.
Mm,
I almost feel like my mouse is somehow vibrating with the hammer of justice
right.
every time I drop this thing on some filthy rule violator.
Yeah.
And I just love it. I mean, it feels good to play. It just, like I said, you get, so into being a cop so quickly that it is
You
insidious.
you see it. You understand.
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, and oh, it's like a little magic trick the
Yeah.
game pulls, and it pulls it so well. And again, I'm 2 hours into this thing. I'm talking like from somebody who's basically played a demo of it at this stage. Probably by the time this airs, I will have completed it and have even more praises to sing. But
And this is me saying this to you, but this is also me saying it to the listeners as well. It's not hard, much in the same way that I said earlier, that HTML is not that difficult. It's not hard to make websites that you insert into the game and can access through the game. And you can even put in your own custom music.
oh, it's
And
so beautiful.
what was such a thrill when we streamed it on my stream, PS underscore Garrick, uh, we made like, I don't know, 4 or 5 websites, and one of them was a period accurate virtual broom closet.
I know. I logged in. I didn't watch too much of this because I didn't want to spoil it for myself, but I happened to see just long enough
Yeah.
your stream to catch that bit. And yeah, like the idea that you would include that in the game, like a way to create your own Hypnospace GeoCities style website. Oh, what a good idea. I mean, again, if you have nostalgia for this era, that's just extra joy crammed into the game. Ben, I asked at the beginning, is this an adventure game? I agree with you.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look like on Steam and things, it's usually listed as a simulation. But
Yeah.
to me, this is a mystery detective
Yeah.
style game that through your ability to solve these sorts of puzzles within this world unlocks further narrative. It feels like very squarely at the adventure game level. I mean, I
Yeah.
don't know how it's certainly not a traditional adventure game,
No.
but I think it's an adventure game just as much as, say, Her Story
Yeah.
or a game like that might be an adventure game. It's just a different take on this genre and one that, oh my gosh, just takes it in directions that I can't imagine other games go. Like it is one of a kind at some level.
Yeah. It is and I I believe also that Jay Tholen uh he had shared online on it like some of the his art reference points for it,
Hmm.
which is just very interesting. It has that 90s kind of world. Was I think there's actually like a term for this, like global coffee house or something. It
Oh
uses
yeah.
sometimes, like it has the vaporwave, it has the global coffee house. It has a lot of, if there is a 90s aesthetic or like mid to late 90s aesthetic that you like, you'll find it done very well
Yeah, it's somewhere
in
in here. Yeah, I
this.
mean they just get it. Of course, right now there's a sequel under development. I said this is one of a kind. It could soon be two of a kind, I suppose. Dream Settler,
Yeah.
which advances this timeline just a few years. I believe it's set like 2003,
Yeah.
2005-ish. And it's interesting to see the incremental differences there because it still appears to be, from everything that's out there, another web investigative style game. I think it looks like it's cut from very similar cloth, but even seeing just that tiny bit of evolution in the OS that you're
Yeah.
accessing, in the kinds of websites you're going to visit, because oh my god, the from 1999 to 2003 is
Completely
two
different
completely
internet.
different worlds. I mean,
Totally
the
different
internet
internet.
today isn't that different than it was 10 years ago, but
Yeah.
in that little 4-year period, it's night and day.
I'm actually gonna say it is different from 10 years ago because I'll say that even 10 years ago, I had websites that I visited. I had less websites that I visited,
Hmm.
but I would check like the AV Club every day, which is still
Of course.
around, but it's not the same. Um, with apologies to, I know there are still people that work there. Yeah, there's just like the couple websites, and I
I miss
know,
web pages,
and
man.
and don't and don't email me, don't email me.
If you have a
Uh,
website, Ben
no,
doesn't want to hear about it.
no, don't email me. I know that there's Neo Cities and all of that, and that's very cool, and I'm not putting that down, but I'm talking about when that this was the entire internet.
Yes. Yeah, not like a novelty space on the internet. Yeah, I mean, I do miss web pages. I mean, there's something to be said. I do think about this. Like now, I mean, gosh, I don't even like keep bookmarks in my browser. I'm still an old head using RSS,
Oh yeah,
but
I still use
I mean,
RSS.
what is there to read on a website anymore? You know, even that.
It's
Like, yeah, do you have a website full of things I want to read? And this is hard because I think you and I are both
yeah,
people who have never understood like how to use the internet as a tool that we access to get things done. It sounds like both you and I, from a very young age, were how can I live on and be part of this magical place?
yeah,
And
and now it sucks.
yeah, now we have to do that on social media, and all social media is terrible. And I mean, thank goodness TikTok's back. I know that we're both real happy about that,
Yeah.
but I mean, what's left?
You that's a crazy thing to say with a 2 week lead time on this episode. You don't know what's going to happen, but I mean,
TikTok will
probably will
probably
be
gone
back. It
and
will
come
probably
back
be
4
back.
more times.
Yeah,
Yeah, or just if you need to, Ben, when you're editing this, just drop in some other very topical
skibbity
reference.
toilet.
Yeah, yeah, or just drop in like a news story, like Lance Bass was eaten by a wolf
Oh
or
yeah,
something like that.
that's a great SNL sketch.
Oh boy, it is. Yeah,
The
no, it is.
Tom Brokaw,
Yeah, Ben, do you feel
Dana
like it's
Carvey.
been too long since we've talked about SNL
I
on
mean,
this
I think it's
platform?
been too long since we've been off topic. We like this game so much that we stayed engaged and on topic this whole
We really
time.
did. Yeah, I don't know what happened. Yeah, I mean, like this is the problem with a pre. I mean, I feel like we were pretty on topic with King's Quest too,
Yeah.
and which is say King's Quest One also. But I don't know, Ben. Have we just gotten good at podcasting, or is the
We've
off
gotten the
topic?
best at podcasting.
I mean, that's why we are the only remaining adventure game
Yeah.
podcast.
We entered the Thunderdome. But I think somebody that was working on Dream Settler said, like, please, this is if you haven't picked it up so far, this is a complete endorsement of Hypnospace Outlaw, and I believe picking up Hypnospace Outlaw helps support the production of Dream Settler. So I want to see that game. So if you haven't gotten Hypnospace Outlaw, you have a job right now. If you're listening,
Hmm. Absolutely,
that job is to
go
get this game because I want the
go
sequel.
buy this game. And of course, as always, you know, if you enjoy fresh home cooked meals, you could
Have
do a lot
borscht.
worse than HelloFresh.
Oh.
Those Ben and I have two messages today. First, get
Uh-huh.
out there and get Hypnospace Outlaw.
Yeah,
This is a
yeah, yeah.
terrific game. Second of all, do you like having your ingredients arrive portioned out for you already, ready to prepare?
Uh-huh.
Well, HelloFresh might be right for you. Ben, what is our special discount code at HelloFresh?
Our special discount code at HelloFresh is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5,
Quest
6.
podcast. No, I'm sorry. No.
I had one more, but you know what? I don't use I don't use HelloFresh anymore because I just get this now.
Granny Cream's hot butter ice cream. You take the hot butter, mix it with the ice cream, freeze it up cool, you can see it on your screen. Put it in your microwave, make it real hot like a soup or a dip. We call it heat and sip. Very tasty and healthy too. Granny Cream's hot butter ice cream.
Granny Cream's hot butter ice cream. That's amazing. That's from Hypnospace Gang. If you want to learn about hot butter ice cream, which, I mean, the more you think about it, the more upsetting it becomes. You gotta play this game.
Yeah, like we're wrapping up. We're towards the end, but I didn't even talk about how great there's this whole thing, and again, you'll see this, Jess, this about like the evolution of music and how people relate to it. But it would just sound like rambling if you're unfamiliar with the game.
I mean, this is one of those games I don't even know how you create. Like, I don't know, like all the parts that come together in this, from the aesthetic, from the writing, from the music, getting a group of people all on the same page, pointed in the same direction to create such a cohesive game as this. Man, it's good stuff. Again, just a 100% endorsement coming from the boys at Quest, the adventure game podcast.
Yeah. All right. Well, that was this week's Quest, where we talked about Hypnospace Outlaw. I give it 5 stars. The podcast, not the game. I give it 4,
absolutely.
4 out of 5 because it is one of my favorite games of the 21st century, but everything has a little room for improvement. Now
I give it 2 stars because the game was great, but the Amazon box it arrived in was damaged. So I'm taking off 3 stars for poor shipping on that.
I love that. I love that when you see that.
That's like one of my biggest
I love
pet
that when you
peeves.
see that on Amazon.
Yeah.
I got this and it was stolen at my stoop.
Yeah.
1 star.
2 stars. Yeah. Or even better, like arrived fast, 5 stars. Like that's super useful to me too. I'm trying to decide if this is the right, Bluetooth adapter for me. It's like, yeah, it's good to know this one ships fast.
I'm getting several emails. Did you like the replacement razor blades that you received? Give us a review. It's like, they're replacement razor blades. 3 stars. They didn't
Had to
bring
replace
my dad
them myself.
back. They didn't bring my dad back.
Where are you, Daddy?
All right. Well, this has been Quest, the adventure game podcast. You can join us next week. Oh, wait, no, we're not at that joke yet. Send us an email at questpodcast@gmail.com. Please send us a 5-star review on whatever you're listening to this on. It helps people find this podcast, and it makes me feel personally better. Both of our self-esteems are just stuck to that number and the number of reviews that we receive, but only good ones. And join us next week when we talk about Operation the board game : the adventure game.